Hello and welcome to Maximum Foods Inside Track. I hope you're all well. Just got back on last Friday from the ADPI Chicago event, which was a fantastic event, and plenty of information flow on the global market and plenty of things happening. Let's dive into seeing what's happening in the industry. Having a look at whole milk powder, so a positive result last night. That was predicted on the futures market as with a small uptick. So demand remains balanced to strong. Some Southeast Asia last night were the biggest participant there. So some good demand out of Southeast Asia, which held up that price. North Asia down a little bit in participation, but it was good to see overall a positive result, especially given milk numbers and milk production numbers out of New Zealand. So production is healthy, but whole milk demand seems to be holding up for the short term. Looking at skim milk powder, so that non-fat market was the talk of the town in Chicago at the event last week. So some very solid demand and scarce supply of non-fat out of the US is really driving that global market of skim at the moment. So there is healthy numbers or healthy production out of the EU and some reasonably good supply in Australia and New Zealand. However, that deficit of supply in the US is really causing skim pricing to drive. So we saw an increase last night again of 3% on the GDT, and that looks to remain quite buoyant for the short to medium term. Moving across to butter fat, so we look at New Zealand, Australia. There is that premium for New Zealand butter globally at the moment. So, albeit down on the GDT last night, butter is holding up quite well in this region. If we look over in the US, the demand is on the wane for US butter fat, and supply is quite abundant. So, pricing relatively flat for fat in the US, and with the EU coming on season now, we're seeing some good supply and quite bearish conditions on butter there. So it is a bit of a mixed bag with butter fat at the moment, with New Zealand and Australia holding up okay, but quite flat conditions on US and EU. Moving across to cheese, if we look in the EU, although the season is on and supply is becoming more abundant, the cheese pricing in the EU seems to be holding up quite well. If you look over to the US, there has been some signs of increased demand. Obviously production and supply is quite healthy out of the US for cheese, but we are seeing a lot of it on the export market. So it is showing a little bit more bullish signs than what we have seen in the last 6 months. If we look over Australia and New Zealand, things seem relatively flat. Obviously the pressure of export US and EU cheese on the global market does put a bit of a cap on Australian and New Zealand pricing. However, it does seem a lot more balanced over on the Aussie NZ side. Along with non-fat, obviously proteins was the talk of the town last week at the ADPI, and as mentioned in an earlier segment, proteins continue to be extremely bullish. So that global demand, insatiable demand for protein in all products is really driving that pricing. WPC in particular is extremely scarce in supply, as that capacity at the moment seems capped out. So demand really healthy in emerging markets such as India. There still is high demand at these prices. So that global demand dynamic continues to push on. So it just the world doesn't seem to be making enough of it at the moment. What will change that? We're not not too sure, you know, will it get priced out and will that burn off demand? We thought that would be the case, but it seems to push on. And then for sweet whey powder as well, as competition for whey solids increases, that we see less of it in the market, and we're also seeing sweet whey surge on the back of that as well. Thanks very much for listening to today's Inside Track. Just a reminder, it's Mother's Day this Sunday in Australia, so make sure you get your mother something nice, and I'll see you again in a fortnight.